Don't know why the last one just cut off. But I don't know if everyone can hear me. I don't know. I don't think I'm being heard. Oh, wait, yes, you can. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this down. Got some feedback. Okay, we're good. Okay, please, if you have any questions, let me know in the chat. Other than that, we're gonna get started. And for this video, so I've been seeing some questions in the comments about tips for those of you who are doing your bachelor's and your master's degree in healthcare administration and you want some tips on success. Yeah, how do you get through your degree program and then come out and be ready to, to get your jobs and be successful, right? So what can you do while you're still a student? There's a lot you can do, actually. There's so much you can do to get yourself on the right path so that when you do graduate, you're going to be ahead of everyone else. And more than likely, you're going to get into a really good entry-level job and you can start moving forward from there, okay? First of all, one of the biggest things, and I think a lot of people who first start college, especially when you're a freshman and you see the club rush happening, you realize that clubs and extracurricular activities in college are actually really important. And they really are. So it's definitely important for you, especially getting a degree as more of a practical degree. You're not really getting some theoretical degree where you're going to sit around and philosophize or just have a degree for the fun of it because you're finding yourself. Your degree is very practical. You're learning how to be a manager, an administrator in healthcare. You're learning how to run the business side of healthcare. So you should, by the time you're ready, by the time you graduate, you should be ready to get a job and work on the business end of healthcare. It doesn't mean you're going to have your own business. You're going to run a Fortune 500 company, but you're going to be able to work on the business end somewhere in business development or some, in finance maybe, or in marketing or, anywhere that actually interests you. And there's so many ways and in different directions you can actually go in healthcare administration. So what you should be doing, okay, get into clubs. A lot of public universities and even some private ones do have clubs that have to do with healthcare administration or at least healthcare professionals. So those are really good clubs for you to join because it's going to give you, what they do is they help you build your skills. They're going to help you make connections with people in the industry. Many times when I was in a club like that, we met every Friday, and every Friday they had something for us. Like they usually had maybe a presentation from, maybe if anything, they would have a research presentation from someone from the graduate program to come and present their, research. So that gives us a really good idea for what we would be looking forward to if we decide to go into the academic route, or if we decide to get our master's degree, right? So at least we know what we would be getting ourselves into as we further our education. Also, so, you would be able to understand that process, but also being in these clubs do help give you sort of a window to the practical side of what you're trying to step into in healthcare. So many times they'll even have presenters who work at local businesses or local clinics, local hospitals, and they'll come and give you a talk on any topic really, but something in healthcare, of course. And that obviously is going to really help you. That you need to soak in as much of that information as you possibly can, because speaking from someone who has been there as a student, you know, when I was learning, when I was just in school, I had no idea what any of this actually looked like. I didn't know what running a business in healthcare looked like. I didn't know what the business end looked like. I didn't know anything outside of being a physician or what that would look like. I mean, actually didn't really even know what physicians have to deal with or what nurses really have to deal with until I stepped into the corporate space. Okay, so I had completely different ideas floating around in my head of what job duties would be and what I would be doing, like what I would be practically doing in a healthcare setting, so I didn't know exactly what any of that would look like. And it's really hard to picture yourself and to visualize your future so that you can bring it into reality, right? Because that is actually very important, but it's really hard to visualize your future when you don't know what it looks like. Okay, so getting involved in extracurricular activities is super important because you do have that. Having said, other extracurricular activities that are really good for you to get involved in would be those clubs that have something to do with leadership and something to do with volunteering, and those other clubs that do debating and public speaking. Okay, because public speaking is something that a lot of people have issues with, but even if you don't speak publicly on a regular basis, you are going to have those moments where you will have to talk to a group or a really large group or a small group or whatever, but you will have to speak to a group, and you can't allow it to scare you and to throw you off because when you are engaging with people, it's so important for you to not look appropriate or look the part, look good. The point of your whatever you're doing when you're speaking to the public or speaking to a group is to get your message across. The people who are watching you should not be looking at how nervous you are, and they shouldn't be afraid for you, and they shouldn't feel like, oh, she's so brave. Oh, I feel so. Give her support. No, what the people in the audience are supposed to be doing when you do present and when you provide information is they're supposed to be learning from you. Can they learn from you if you can't even really focus and really feel what you're trying to teach them or what messages you're trying to deliver them? They can't. That they really can't get into what you're saying because you're too focused on your note cards or your PowerPoint and what you look like and how you might be forgetting your words, things like that. So getting into like a debate club or just something like a speech club, there's this one, I think it's called Master something. Jeez, I don't know. My husband did it, and he's like, yeah, it helped him come out of his shell a lot. So, Master something, I totally forgot. It's on the tip of my tongue, but you guys can Google it, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it. It's not always connected to a university, but it is something that you can join. Anyone can join just to get better at public speaking. And it's so important. It's an amazing skill to have, really in any industry, but especially in healthcare. Okay, you're always going to find yourself in a position where you actually have to help people, help teach or present information. So it's super important to do that. That is another tip for success. And also, even when it comes to when it's time for you to interview for positions, you can't be a nervous wreck and just like, oh no, what, I memorized the answers to these questions, but now he's throwing a different question at me and I don't know the answer because I didn't look that one up and I didn't memorize it or whatever. But so you can't rely on practicing and memorizing information, being able to spit it out. You have to really know the information that you're talking about, and you have to be you have to have developed your speaking and public speaking skill well enough so that you're not going to lose your mind when you're in front of people, and you can actually access the information in your brain comfortably and provide that to the people. Okay, so that's why that is super important and really in an industry. But so the next tip for success that you really need to look into is seeking out mentorship opportunities. How does this happen? Okay, there are actually a variety of different ways you can look for a mentor. You can find one. You can do a paid mentorship. And the internet is flooded with people out there who are consultants or professionals in healthcare, and they also have their mentorship programs that you can pay for, and they will help you. Of course, I would say those are great, but then again, as a student, you may or may not have enough money, and that might not be the best investment. It might be it's a really good investment, but in my opinion, what would be the absolute best investment would be something that would teach you how to go seek genuine free mentorship opportunities. So maybe like reading blogs, watching videos, taking a quick course on how to do this. And I'm sure there are plenty of courses out there. And I'm actually going to include a section on this in the course that I'm creating right now that I will post, that I'm going to put out there in the coming weeks. But I think it would be best for you to invest in something like a book or a course or an ebook, something that teaches you how to do it rather than just paying someone to provide mentorship for you. Those might be great opportunities if you're very rich, but the reason why I think that's not, if you're not a rich person, the reason why that's not probably the best investment is because there are so many things that you do need to do to build your profile and to learn about the industry. And you really need something, if you're going to spend money on something that's going to help you move forward, it needs to teach you about all of the different pieces to developing your career, not just one thing. Okay. But seeking out a mentor is really, really beneficial. Okay. And I think it's most beneficial when it's genuine. Although paid would, because paid is like, well, there are rules to it, and, but then they also, I think, there are benefits to either or, but if it's a non-paid thing and it's a very genuine sort of a mentorship, like where you're a real friend, it's a friendship sort of a thing. Like it could just be a coworker or a professor or, someone that you've met. They can, it doesn't have to be an agreement between you two. Okay, so there's no reason for them to give you everything you want. But if you guys create like a nice, connection, usually people are actually very willing to give you everything that they know. A lot of people, I think deep down love to help, especially people who are in healthcare. So how do you find a coworker or someone to look up to in the space? You're going to have to do job shadowing. You're going to have to do some volunteering and maybe even try to get into an entry-level job. Okay. Also do internships, apply to gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Apply to fellowships, try to get something like that going where you are doing some practical work and in the field, and you're able to connect with people who are in positions that are higher than you, and you can create relationships, like solid, good relationships with coworkers and with authority figures who have a lot of information, and they are just so willing to just spill it out to you because you guys are developing a great friendship. That's great. Those are the best mentorships. That being said, paid ones, pretty good too, because they have standards, or, and they have, they'll give you all the connects, like up front, and they'll walk you through the step of the way. When you do a paid mentorship, it's like there's an agreement between you two because you're paying for this product. So they actually are supposed to turn you into, going from wherever you are now into something. There's supposed to be a transformation. Okay. So those are also really good if you have money. Anyway, what else will help you become successful while you're a student of healthcare administration? Staying up to date with industry trends. Okay, it's really, really good to know what's going on in the business of healthcare in the United States and also in other countries, especially like Canada and the UK. And the reason why Canada and the UK is, yes, they have different political systems and their systems run differently, but it's always good to understand what's going on with them. And they're like our cousins or, in healthcare. They're all, we have a lot of similarities, and we use similar standards, I guess, in healthcare, if you want to put it that way. But so it's really good to keep in mind what's going on in those countries. Also, sometimes you can immigrate, you can move over there and get a job a lot easier than you would be able to get a job in so many other countries. So that's something. So it's really good to keep in mind what's going on in healthcare trends, because sometimes things can change. And what's interesting is that many of the older people who work in the industry usually fight change. I mean, it's usually kind of like a 50-50 thing. But if you're coming into the industry and you are already up to date on everything new that is coming out, and you already understand everything, and you're actually a lot more moldable, if that makes sense, when you step into the workspace. So that's really good. All right. So also, what should you do? What are some really great tips? You should build good relationships with your professors, which I know is hard because you're a student and you're intimidated and you have imposter syndrome, and sometimes your grades aren't that great, and you feel like when your grades aren't perfect and your professors hate you and they think you're not worth their time, but that is not true. Let me tell you, from being on both ends, because as a student, I always felt like that. But as a professor, I'm always looking at students going, why don't they just come to me? Like, come on, like, I can help you. Let me help you get through this fail. Please, let me help you. I'm here to help you get through this fail. You're falling, and this is not cool. And you can do so much better. I am your teacher. This is what I get paid to do. Let me help you. Okay, so this is how professors usually feel. Okay, they're not judging you like how you think they're judging you. What they might be judging you on, like usually towards the end of the quarter or the semester, when you suddenly realize that it's going to be very difficult for you to raise your grade from like a C- to even get a B in the class with the final exam, especially knowing that you didn't really learn anything and you're not doing very well on the exams. You're probably not going to get 100% on your final exam. So you might not save yourself. And then you go to the professor and beg for extra credit opportunities. And so the thing is, I personally don't like points and this whole system because it turns education into like this game, and it doesn't really foster an environment for you to really learn the information that you need to know. So I don't like it. But what usually disappoints me about that situation is you had all semester, all quarter, things. I usually even I'll start emailing people midway through the session, and I'll be like, look, your grades are super low. What's going on? Do you need help with something? Do you need me? Because you never know. Maybe the student is going through something difficult and they might need extensions on whatever, and they just don't think that they have that right. But I think that if you're learning the information and you're making an effort, it shouldn't depend on getting things done at the deadlines. So I'm always willing to change extension, the due dates and whatnot. I don't think that they matter so much, but I need to have the student cooperate with me, and usually that's what separates the really good students from the not so good students. And trust me, you want to be a really good student. I know sometimes they say that grades don't show how you're really going to be in real life, but they kind of do. They kind of do. Even if you feel like a lot of the information you're learning in class isn't really practical and it's not going to really serve you, you're not going to have to pull up information you memorized 2 years ago. But that may be true. But if you are trying to get a job, especially a corporate job, it does train you in a way. Okay, so you do need to kind of work with the structure and be able to mold yourself and be on top of everything. And when you do need help and you recognize that you're not getting it, or something's not working out with your schedule because you also have work and then you have to study, you do need to you need to go to your professors, build a strong relationship with them, build a practical friendship with them, let them know what's going on in your life, what your situation is, and don't be like a beggar, or like a victim all the time, but just be like, hey man, like this is what's going on. So what it would be really good for me is if maybe I turn my stuff into you on Fridays instead of Mondays because such and such. I don't know. But maybe if you can work with them, they're usually willing to work with you. And well, at least a lot of them are willing to work with you. I know some of them are super rigid, but it's just so much better if you can create yourself a nice, comfortable situation in school and you can have a good relationship with your professors. That's not the only reason to have a good relationship with your professors, because another reason is that many professors will, they also have an extended network usually, and it's not just within academia. Okay, so they're going to know people in the field, hopefully, because they're going to like conferences and things like that. And they might be able to connect you with people that can help further your career. So that's also another thing. Also, professors, many times they do know when all the conferences are happening because they stay plugged in that way. So they might be like, hey, there's a conference coming up, students are allowed, the cost is $40. You can register here, and then boom, then you get to be part of a conference, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's another one. So another thing, I know when I said that you should develop your public speaking skills, I think communication skills goes along with that, but I do want to emphasize that communication skills are super important, especially in healthcare, in business, and really everything. Communication skills are key. Writing skills also are, but I also feel like we're moving into an age where writing skills may not be that important. It doesn't mean that you can write crappy and just chicken scratch all over the place, or even just like type up things that don't make sense and turn them in and expect people to read your emails and be like, this is okay. But what I am saying is that what you do need to do is to know the difference between good writing and terrible writing. You need to be able to know the difference between good communication, bad communication. You need to be able to express yourself completely, clearly, and simply, because people don't like a lot of words anymore. We don't do that anymore. So not too many words. Okay, but very clear. You need clear communication in whatever you are using. And with writing, we have AI now. So we have Grammarly, we have even Chat GPT, and it's only beginning, right? So there are so many ways that you can just use AI as a tool to write something really great for you. But you need to know how to use the tools, and you need to make sure that it's communicating clearly what you want to communicate. That's also very important. Okay, so develop those skills. Obviously, the skills that we need in the future are a little bit different from what they needed to have developed even 20 years ago. Okay, so with respect to writing skills and communication skills, I think it's making sure that you are focused in what you are trying to communicate, and that you can catch the mistakes and you know when something isn't very clear. Okay, but also knowing how to use the tools that are available for us right now, because it does save a lot of time. Networking is probably one of the biggest other tips that I have for you. Networking is widely important, especially as a student, because when you get your first job, or when you're seeking your first job, it is so hard. Like, even if you have a decent amount of like volunteer experience and you've done some shadowing and things like that, it's still really hard because people hesitate to take a chance on you. They just don't know. Because you haven't had an actual job in healthcare yet. So you're a beginner. And even in your interviews, you're going to sound, you're gonna radiate newbie all over the place. And many times it's just sort of a turnoff for a lot of companies out there when you're going through the interview process. You might have everything right all the way up until the interview. Okay, and also you may have not everything right within your resume and your cover letters, which are also very important. So please, I have so many articles on how your resume and cover letter needs to be in order for you to even get to the interview part of the hiring process. So please check those out. Super important. But networking, man, so important, because many times it's who you know. That's how you find the opportunities. That's how you, after you apply, you can follow up with everyone. And, if they know you, that makes them feel like, okay, I can take a chance on that. I can hire them. I can trust them better than someone I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's so important to network with. So you really need to build your LinkedIn. You need to build your online presence in social media, because a lot of our networking is online, right? Your profiles out there need to be very, very good, like very professional. They need to show who you are as a human being. So it can't be strictly professional and you're doing healthcare quotes only on every social media platform. You need to show who you are and who you are in your personal life, but who you are in your personal life can't be crazy. Okay. So there's that. But definitely develop your LinkedIn and go to various different events, whether they're virtual or they are in person. And when you do that, you need to communicate and connect with people. That's another reason why you have to connect with your professors. And that's also another reason why it's so good for you to get an internship or a mentorship or or do job shadowing or volunteering, because that's also another opportunity. Those are multiple opportunities for you to network, to build relationships, right? And I have plenty of articles on networking as well on the website, www.professorashley.com. Please check them out because they have a wealth of information. I'm also going to include some step-by-step processes of how to network really well and things to say and talk about and all of that in the course that I'm developing at the moment. So that's going to really help you guys as well. Keep a lookout for that if you're interested. Let me see if there's anything else that we want to talk about before we go, because I know that I've taken up a lot of time at the moment. Give me 1 second or a couple seconds, dude, I don't know. All right, so we good. I will see you guys later. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give me more comments and questions that I can answer for you. I'm sorry it took a while to start answering questions again. The New Orleans situation sucked. Okay, New Orleans. I'm so sorry if you live in New Orleans. I couldn't do it anymore. So we're back in Florida, and Florida, I feel like I'm a Floridian. Even though I've been born and raised in California my whole life, I really, really love Florida. It's so nice. We're in Gulf Breeze and it's so nice here, and quite happy. I'm feeling good, feeling ready to go. All right, so shout out to Floridians.